Welcome to Books and Sciences. My name is Dr. Matthew Radmanish. I'd like to introduce you to some of the books that I've written on this subject. The very first book that I wrote was called The Gateway to Understanding, Electrons to Waves and Beyond. With that book, I introduced a new concept into sciences, which was completely unlooked for. I covered concepts that are most of the time neglected and not even looked at. Such things as, let me give you an idea of what are the topics that I introduced in this book. I looked at such things as what are the scientific postulates, the role of technical nomenclature. I covered theory of relativity, which I also generalized it to expand to many other areas of our life, not just physics. I covered half-truth and false information sciences, which I think is an important aspect you need to understand. The dichotomy principle I covered. Also, the realm of physical sciences, how and what it encompasses. Also introduced a thing called the new science of viewpoint, and went on to discuss many things such as what are the parts of physics outside of the basic concepts, such as space. What is curved space? What is linear space? Energy in terms of potential energy or kinetic energy. And I covered matter, the forms of matter. There are forms of matter. There's liquid, obviously, there's solid, there's gas, and there's plasma. Then I covered the postulate of time, which is objective time and subjective time. And not only that, the measurement of time, which I think is an important concept to know. Also, I discussed time as a fourth dimension. I covered time warps and time travel. The universal time base that I propose in this book that will replace what we call the Earth time base. That will prepare mankind for traveling to outer space, because in outer space, as you may know and may be aware of it, that there is no such thing as day or night. It's just a change. So with that concept, we cannot just say morning or evening or afternoon. It's just meaningless. So you have to introduce a new concept. And with that said, I introduced this we call universal time base, which I think will change the way we look at time. And then I examined a missing vital element in all our sciences, which is the postulate zero, I call it, and that's the concept of viewpoint. And I generalized that into how it affects analysis and design in engineering. Then further, I examined basic axioms and principles of physics concerning our universe. Particularly, I covered the uniqueness axiom, the mutual exclusiveness axiom, the exclusion principle, which is also called the Pauli exclusion principle in physics, in quantum physics, the non-absoluteness axiom, the uncertainty principle, the universal communication principle, and I also talked about the generalized application mass, which is really a derivable thing from the postulates. Then further on, I discussed things such as what are the workable postulates of physics and engineering, such as what are the energy in classical physics versus quantum physics, types of motion, the origin of quantum mechanics. Then I covered matter in terms of what is the physical aspect of matter, what is physics' viewpoint of matter. Then I examined implicit postulates of physics, which are created space, mechanical time. Not only that, there are also hidden elements in physics, such as the viewpoint, which basically we have reduced it to a coordinate systems. XYZ coordinate system many times in our engineering analysis. That's a substitution for the word viewpoint. Also, I discussed briefly in this book the hidden postures of physics, which is the first one is the principle of conservation of energy. I covered the principle of conservation of mass, the principle of conservation of energy mass as a combination, the conservation of created space. I covered the principle of conservation of mechanical time. I covered the principle of comparable magnitudes. And furthermore, I discussed particle and wave duality. A lot of times in physics, one thing we consider to be particle, another time we say it's a wave. But which is it? So I covered that in this section. Further on, I went on and I basically explored the field of electricity, particularly waves. And I found out there were 6 monumental discoveries. The very first one was discovery of static electricity. What is this? And what are the postulates? Then I covered kinetic electricity. What is it? And what are the basic postulates there? And who was the founder of it? Then I explored the discovery of magnetism from electricity, which is a very interesting area because these two fields, electricity and magnetism, have been treated very, very separate from each other up to that moment in time, which was about 1840s. 1840 to 1873 time frame. Then we have the discovery of interaction of kinetic electricity with matter. This is an important area. This is how we get the motor, the dynamos, all of these alternators, all of this comes under this heading. And next I discussed the discovery of force fields, which is a very, very revolutionary discovery by Michael Faraday, 1840 time frame. And he was a forerunner of wave theory, which was next discussed as a theoretical discovery of electronic waves by James Clerk Maxwell. We covered that in depth and how Maxwell came to basically come up with the series of, at that time was 8, later on became 4 equations which changed our lives forever. I think this is fascinating. And then, of course, this was 1873 when Maxwell proposed his wave theory. It took about 21 years, 1894, Heinrich Hertz came up and proved Maxwell's theoretical prediction of wave theory, and he proved it beyond the shadow of doubt, and that became the current modern textbooks on wave theory. And remember, 1872 to 1894 is 21 years. The scientific world was in a total chaos. Everybody led to believe that Maxwell was wrong. And of course, Maxwell, he didn't see all of this confusion because at age 39, right after he proposed the wave theory, he up and died. So he didn't see all the chaos coming up. But 1894 was the beginning of the wave theory, the real beginning, because practically it was proved that is to be the case. And off of that, we got a number of supplemental discoveries along the way, such as the source of electric field. We covered DC signals, superconductors. We have generalized Ohm's law, conservation of charge, charge migration to a conductor surface. We have electric polarization, conservation of current, conservation of flux in magnetism. We also have duality of electricity and magnetism. And of course, I explored what lies beyond the modern age. And this is, of course, fascinating to examine these things beyond what lies, what we call today's society. I examined that, and of course, in the final thing, I've summarized these concepts into a very remarkable conclusion. Now, this work was monumental in opening the door to many aspects of our sciences. And I realized most people need a workbook to go with it. So I wrote a workbook called The Gateway to Understanding Electrons to Waves and Beyond workbook. In this workbook, many of the problems and things that most people have questions about are written in a lesson form. So lesson by lesson, you learn the answer in the back of the book, and you take an exam, a final exam, and it's all in this book, and you get a certificate after you finishing it. So this is a very, very excellent way, an excellent way to become successful in learning the basic principles of physics and engineering and become a powerhouse in terms of understanding these concepts. Then I realized that these concepts could be simplified further, so I expanded it and I came up with this next book, which is called Cracking the Code of Our Physical Universe. Now this is, the subtitle is called The Key to a Whole New World of Enlightenment and Enrichment, which I examine concepts such as the two facets of our existence, the powerful realm of postulates, the main secrets of our universe, the phenomena of space and time, the relation of energy and matter, the 6 codes making up the final key, an ideal fusion of science and philosophy. I covered the code disintegrator to crack any code, the reason for how and why of our world. I explain it in depth. And I present a lively summary of the time-tested principles and how the microscopic atoms rule the macroscopic galaxies. It's fascinating to look into this from this point of view. And I came up with a series of indispensable solutions to many aspects of our complex world. So this book, published in 2006, provided a summary in a simple way of the Gateway to Understanding book. And many people found it fascinating, the concept I talk about in this book. There are things such as, I covered the universe. Immense universe to a lot of us is really beyond any limit. And I covered that, what it is and what does it consist of. I covered the essence of being a scientist. What does it mean that a physical scientist exists and you're a scientist? What's your job? What should you be doing? Then I covered the code disintegrator, what it is and what you can do to become one, because many of us may not know really it exists, and so we may not even be aware of the fact that we could become a code disintegrator and crack any code. Then I covered the realm of postulates in sciences, the phenomena of space, the nature of energy. I cover understanding matter, the phenomena of time, the dichotomy and duality in our universe, the observable application mass. I covered the 2 facets of our universe, which is microscopic and macroscopic, the crowning secrets of our universe, and finally unravel the code. So there you have it, 3 books on sciences that I wrote, and I hope with these 3 books you are able to take advantage of a series of unparalleled information for your own benefit and become a howling success using it as a scientist or engineer at work. Thank you.